Alrighty, let's get into it. The Spincast Cycling Show. I'm Brian Kellison, Lisa Vries, Casey Shum, Brian White. Happy New Year. Can we still say that? It's only 5 days. When does it stop? When do you stop saying Happy New Year?
Next year.
Next year. So you can say Happy New Year
all year.
Perfect. All right. Bonne année, everybody. Bonne année, bonne santé. That's what you say in French. We're going to get into it. It's good to have everyone back. We took a week off because of travel, all the other stuff, holidays. But it's going to be a jam-packed show. We're going to start off with, are there too many hoops to jump through? Because now we're jumping through hoops. I jumped through hoops last night. Lee jumped through hoops yesterday? 2 days ago?
Yesterday and today.
Yesterday and today.
Doing my own thing.
Yeah, Brian's jumped through hoops. I don't know if Casey's considered jumping through hoops, but maybe he has or hasn't.
In the past, not recently.
In the past, yeah. So we've all jumped through hoops. Are there too many hoops? And if there are too many, could we have less, or can they be more specific? Because I found out that there's some stuff that's really specific and then really vague. And I know, do we have stuff on the screen yet? I think the first thing is there's one that I picked out last night when I was doing, I was doing the Power Passport test for the Echelon Racing League to then compete in the U.S. National Championships for 2025.
Which we still don't know anything about.
Which we currently don't know anything about, which I didn't even know, but it's good to know, to be on the I don't know and not have anything to worry about. I did jump in head first last night, and I'm sort of wanting, because I don't like testing. That's my biggest thing. And the people that were at my stream last night, I was really mad. I was frustrated because I want to do one test. Now, it's only on my whoosh. Well, no. There's 2 racing series that need performance verification on my whoosh. One is the Sunday Race Club, and one is the Echelon Racing League. The assumption is, that's the key word, assumption is it's the same test. But the literature could not totally let you know about that, because if you're just like, hey, I'm going to do the Echelon Racing League because I want to do nationals, you're going there to then go to the rule book and the rule set. My biggest thing was it's not clearly identified who's asking for what. So who's asking for what? This is reckless speculation right off the kick off here. My whoosh wants stuff, but does Echelon Racing League want stuff? Or did they hand off completely the performance verification to my whoosh? That's the question to the panel.
Yeah, do we know that? From the outside looking in, for me, what I've reviewed so far is, to me, the only difference between Sunday Race Club and Echelon, if you don't pull back the covers, should be Echelon's letting in some of the trainers that go down to like 2%, right? They're letting in the older kickers, the kicker cores, that kind of thing. On the surface, to me, everything else should be the same, right? It's the same test. It's the same protocol. It's on the MyWhoosh platform. They've just opened up to more trainers. Now, I'm confused about a lot of things because I've been in a few streams this weekend, so I'm kind of glad we're diving into this. Maybe you guys can shed some light on it, but there's more differences than that. There's things I didn't expect that is allowed and maybe isn't allowed. I don't know.
For the Echelon Racing League and Nationals, is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah, and I think Nationals is going to follow the Echelon Racing League. In my brain, that's what I heard. Now, you guys probably have documentation that says differently also, right? Like this is me not reading a bit of paperwork, and this is how, on the surface, I understand it, right? Is Echelon opened up to a few more trainers. USA Cycling in Canada jumped on to Echelon, and basically you have to do an Echelon race and do an Echelon verification to perform in those nationals. So basically, they're adopting Echelon rules.
Because we had Josh on from Cycling Canada, and one of their biggest things, which is what we talked about last year, was their biggest cost, which was cost prohibitive to a certain extent, was paying for performance verification. Now, that was handled by a third party. I believe it went through, which was technically Indy Velo, but it wasn't named properly, but it was like Bjorn Austin Brink from Athlete Analytics, and George, I think, were maybe also helping with some of that. But it was always handled outside of the platform. It was a third party. Like we used to have 2 years ago or 3 years ago with RGT and Echelon was the eBio Passport, which was essentially a athlete portal that you could put all your information, which you were required to put all your information, and then the race promoter can then go into the back end and see the stuff if they want to verify somebody, if there's something that arises that they need to have verification or they need to have more stuff. So it was like one test to put all your stuff. That was Echelon's request. Now I did the Zwift Games, which was last year as well, and I believe I had to do a different test, right? I also had to do a different test for Sunday Race Club when I did it 2023. Okay, that's 3 different tests for 3 different events. And why do we have not clarity on who's looking at this stuff? Who wants to look at it? Where does it go? How come I have to go to different places? That's where the hoops start to get harder and harder and harder. And I already don't want to do the effort. It's not the paperwork. It's I don't want to have to do the effort and have it not be correct to then have to do the effort again. That's my fear. It's not the fear of like, oh, I filled out the paperwork wrong. It's like going to the DMV and getting stuck in this infinite loop.
There was enough when I read through the documentation for the MyWhoosh Power Passport test. There was enough written in that documentation that I was thinking in my head, you could essentially DQ anyone on a technicality for these videos because every single video is going to have some minor flaw in it. Like,
oh yeah,
the person has to be present in the video all times. It has to be one large video. It has to have this. It has to have that. Like at some point, through all those videos, someone's going to step off camera. Someone's not going to always have a clear view of the trainer. Something's going to move. Somebody's kid's going to walk into the room and they're going to stick their head around the corner. You're going to violate one of those rules at some point during that video. I would guess that maybe 10 or 15% of the videos could actually 100% conform to exactly and precisely what some of those guidelines were.
Right.
Like I feel like like what you said, Casey, the rules are so stringent in what they want to give them a back door out. If someone does something weird, or wins, or there's some controversy, they can be like, oh, we looked at your video. You didn't do blah, 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 and you can be kicked out due to a technicality because your foot wasn't in the video for the full time. So we'll see, because I did 3 separate videos. I didn't really follow the rules. So you never
because
know.
there's logistics involved. Like,
I've not heard of anybody actually getting a technicality on the videos. I think the most that I've heard is like the only really time I've heard is a few people have actually got the Power Passport test kicked back and said you didn't go hard enough, right? Basically, but it wasn't about video and you didn't stay in frame. It was the actual test itself. You didn't go hard enough.
But isn't there something for the do-gooders? Like we're do-gooders, at least face value. Like all the do-gooders are trying to do what they're asking, and it's still even difficult.
Something too. It's for. I know it's not for Echelon. Maybe it is for Echelon. I don't know. Sunday Race Club with this new categories and the new rule book.
Yeah, right.
They added you have to pick up your scale, show underneath of it, and the bottom of the scale in the video, and set it back down. Yeah,
I did a weight verification, and then I did it incorrectly, and I had to show the scale being picked up and moved.
I wouldn't have noticed that. I wouldn't have even thought about that. But someone on the December final in our team chat said, "Hey, I was just told we have to show the bottom of the scale. Otherwise, I would have never went and looked at it." There was no announcement of this.
And there's even another footnote, which is different than what I was always taught. At least this goes back to the RGT racing, right? Which is you had to wear socks, you had to wear bibs or shorts, and a jersey. That was required. That was sort of like full disclosure. That was sort of like voluntary, whatever steps. You show yourself, and then you go, here's the weight, put the weight on the scale, take the weight off the scale, step on without the weight, then record yourself, then get off, then step on with the weight, get off, and you're done. That's the way I was sort of taught. And then when it went to some Facebook, it was like sort of like, what was it? It was honor system. It was the honor system. It was created a standard. Okay, this is what we did. And then we had to do it for, there was no rules. They just had to do a weight video. It's nice that they're giving you stipulations and what to do, but that's also a lot involved, which is fine. But if you can miss those steps and be like, oh, I did this weight video, and then you don't do it right immediately following your test, and you're like, oh, I didn't do it on camera, or I didn't do this sort of thing. And like I said, going back to the do-gooder thing, this is all, we're complaining because we're do-gooders, right? Why are we doing this? We're doing this because of the people that are cheating, right?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
We're doing this because there's a permeation, or there's like just too many cheaters. And so like we have to make sure everyone's legit, because there's bad apples and all the good apples are getting frustrated. And I think that the crop, the basket, has less apples because people don't want to jump through these hoops. They don't.
I
really
think
imagine. I mean, like, we all stream and we all have decent setups, and we find it difficult. I can't imagine someone holding their phone trying to record themselves.
One device,
Like,
yeah,
oh
right.
my
One
goodness.
device people.
I had like, well, you watch Brian, he put his on YouTube.
I got
He
it
has
right
like
now
4
behind
cameras. Yeah,
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. And I was going to do the same thing that Brian did, right? I was just going to put a camera like showing the whole room setting behind me that caught the monitor, the trainer, and all of that. So no matter what,
I don't think I have
everything
that.
was in view all the time.
I have a top half of my body and the lower half of my body on camera. I don't have my full body on camera. So
Yeah,
did I
that's,
do it
that's what I
incorrectly?
mean.
I have halves, lower half.
That's the
and
thing.
upper
Is like,
half.
and I have thousands, not thousands. I probably have 10 cameras. I could do a full body thing, but I don't want to be doing that. I just want to do, like, I'm already thinking about a 3-minute effort and a 12-minute effort. Like all this camera stuff, because there's cheating going on. Like how do we innovate this? How do we get better?
Well,
So what
during
is-
my Garmin, during my weigh-in video, I actually brought up Garmin Connect on my phone and held it in front of the camera and was like, in my mic, I'm going, this is Garmin Connect. If at any point you disagree with this video, I can give you 9 years of weight data synced to my scale.
Yeah.
At least
mean,
Echelon. So go ahead, Casey, and I have a point. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just to say, going through just the things that you need to it's not, the testing itself is complicated, but then the things that you need to execute the testing and put that all together, right? You have to have a room with a hard floor. You have to have a scale. You have to have a Bluetooth heart rate monitor that is not optical. It has to be a chest strap. You have to have a power meter. You have to have an
10
approved
kilogram,
trainer,
10 kilogram or more weight.
a marked weight. Yeah, a marked weight.
I have no weight.
Yeah,
Isn't that
so
like 25 pounds? I have a 6.8 kilo. That's like a 15-pound kettlebell.
I have a 25-pound kettlebell, so I've got one. But just going through those things, like just thinking about the average Joe trying to get into, they opened up more divisions or whatever. Doing all of that, and then having the media equipment to record that. I mean, the people that aren't streaming like us, the assumption is they're either using like a built-in webcam on a they're basically using their home Zoom or teleconference setup, right? They're going to be using their phone, their iPad, their laptop with a built-in camera, something like that. That's a challenge for this, big time.
Yeah, for the do-gooders.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do it. I did it. And now I'm going to find out. I have to fill out the form and send everything. But the vagueness is what I also brought up in my stream, is if you go to weigh-in video, no, not go to the hardware protocol or whatever. Like you have to like connect to the things, all that other stuff. But it was like you have to have a 360 video of you.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like for the weigh-in video, appropriate clothing. It's like, why is it, what does appropriate mean? Can you wear a Speedo and not have to weigh your socks? I was weighing my socks and you have to weigh your socks and your jersey. A lot of people just ride in their bibs, or they ride in shorts. So it's like that's added to your weight.
How about this too? For weigh-in, after the race, because you do it after your passport test, do you change bibs or do you leave the same sweaty, soaked bibs on? It might only be a
I did sweaty soaked bibs.
Sweat.
Yeah. I was 94 kilos. 2 days ago, I was 92.
So I'm probably going to wear my spandex without a chamois and
just
towel off.
get as lean as, be a do-gooder.
Much,
your bibs from 2004, they're like see-through.
See-through, yeah.
But that's the thing. It's like...
But on the other side of it is there... You want to... So it's vague, right? Like, Brian, it is vague. But with it being... If it wasn't vague, is the protocol proper? Is all of this necessary for verified racing?
It is for my whoosh.
I'm asking an opinion. Do we all feel like this is the appropriate?
I don't know.
Thing.
I don't know. Okay, so I'm the big dumb animal, right? I do does 12 minutes tell me what you guys need? Does 12 minutes work for the data crunchers? Does 3 minutes work? Does the sprint? I messed up the sprint, I think, because it was like not clearly defined. And, oh, you're talking, Brian. No, I noticed where it was like, and all of a sudden I did the sprint, and the bigger number it didn't go to 6 and then back to 0. Like, I'm thinking the interval is going to go the time amount and then go to the zeros in every single time event. It doesn't clearly identify it. But for me, it's like, I've never done performance verification on the back end. I keep doing these. That's where I'm frustrated. Like,
I think it's tough.
How do you not we should? Sorry, go ahead, Lee, and then I have a point. I
think it's kind of tough because I don't really know what else you could do, because they do want your weight and a little bit of power history, and I don't really know how to do it better. I mean, the instructions could maybe be better, but as far as verified racing, I think it's sort of necessary.
No, I think it's correct. You're asking for my opinion. Yes, I think this is correct. You need to do a verification. What I think we need is one every quarter, and it goes to the eBio Passport or it goes to some other place. It's a third party, and you are responsible for updating your thing every quarter unless you buy new hardware. And you go, you want to know who I am? Here I am. And I have to do it 4 times a year if I'm going to compete a year round. But if I'm going to compete at a certain time, the standard should be every quarter I do a new Power Passport test so you know where my fitness is. And I do my weigh-in. And you have a weigh-in for the quarter, because weigh-ins are not hard. You just stand on the scale and get off the scale, right? You know what's coming up. But you also weigh in before the event. Like, I like Echelon weighing before the event. I do like that. That's not hard to do. You're not having to do an hour-long effort. It's like 2 to 3 minutes to do a weigh-in.
Well, and that's where the second form comes in, because for my whoosh, they want their weigh-in video to set your weight in game. Echelon Racing League has a separate weigh-in form for like the day before the race that will adjust, separate from like my whoosh.
From a standard, I love the Sunday Race Club. One thing, you don't have to worry about weight for a month or whatever it is, Brian. I don't know exactly what it is.
Other than the elites, right?
Other than the other elites. But like, hey, you're racing. Like, I don't want to worry about it. I just want to eat. I want to fuel. I want to train.
Yeah.
On a personal standpoint, like, I want to lean out before the race, and now I'm glad that I can get better fitness. I can still train, maybe lean out a little bit more. Not that it maybe is going to help me, so that I can weigh in before the national championships and be a little bit leaner than what I was at 94 kilos. Right? That's the weigh-in video is not the problem. It is and I know people are cheating with their weigh-in, right? Their weight, but the weigh-in videos are not hard to do. They're very easy. I taught Lucas, friend of the show, Dr. Weebles, on the stream. He is totally clueless on tech stuff. I had to edit his videos to convert them to a file so we can upload it to the Flanders Classics races we were doing like 3 years ago. He can do it. He's like, okay, here I am. This is what I do. Stand on the scale, get the thing, boom, done. create a standard, make that across the board. It goes to a portal. You upload it to the thing. Just like if you want to bring up eBioPassport, if people don't know about, if people that are new to the show or old to the show, the eBioPassport was a portal by the community of RGT. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was Dave Blodgett, who was one of the people that put it together. And it was your own portal. You uploaded your, 30-second effort. I think you did a 1-minute effort, maybe? Yeah, Lisa Vries. Here you go. So you have your power analysis. You can click on a race. It shows your power. It shows your equipment. It shows, oh yeah, you got verification.
Yep.
See, Cycling Canada came in the back end and verified you. So you have your 1 second. That's dual power. You can see it there clearly. You can go, okay, cool. I need this. So and you as a rider don't have to show this to other riders. But if you don't show your stuff publicly, the race organizers, the verification teams, can go in the back end and still have access to it. So it's an agreement between the race promoters and the riders. Power metrics, and then you have your little weigh-in videos, right?
A jug of milk was 9.5 pounds.
I remember we were using jug of milk.
Yeah, jug of milk.
It just had to be a known thing.
Yeah, and they had to wait.
Well, because that's what it is. Like you weighed like a jug of milk, weighed it. It's 9.5 pounds, and then you hold yourself in the video. You weigh yourself with the jug of milk, and then you weigh yourself without the jug of milk, and then
Yeah, for people that don't do this and know it, is you weigh the object that is going to add the additional weight on your scale. That proves your scale is accurate. So you get on without the weight, and then you get on with holding the weight, and it's supposed to add 9.5 pounds to your weight. And then they can go, or plus or minus whatever the scale gives you. Right?
I honestly think they should be going back to this.
I totally agree.
This is way easier, especially if you're doing cross-platform.
So I think, we got a couple different things to touch on, right? It's one is the general testing that's being done out there appropriate and good to enter this level of racing? And then I think the second part is consistency, right? And I think we will all agree on the consistency part of it. The most frustrating thing about this is every league, even on the same platform, seems to be a little different, wording things a little differently and requiring you to do things a little different. I think like at least Echelon and MyWhoosh will share a single test, right? You can submit them for both kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then if you got into Zwift, like elite level racing, you got to completely test differently there. So there needs to be a general, not associated with a platform verification thing like this.
Yeah,
consistence-wise.
I agree. My vote for rider-initiated standardized testing presented to all the platforms and the governing bodies and say, this is the riders, we decide this. And then if they say, well, we would like this, then you can negotiate. But it's like, we're just being told, you got to do this and you got to do this. And I understand sometimes there's a point where like democracy is awesome, but sometimes this needs to just be, this is the standard. And you need to get into the practice of it so that you get comfortable with doing it the same way over and over and over again. Now, sorry, let me finish with this last point, because people will try to manipulate the system. And so there needs to be checks and balances of like trying to get around things to like, oh, I know the system now. And so, yes, a refinement over time was beneficial as well, because people are like, oh, I know how to weigh this, and this, or I know how to manipulate. That's for the bad actors, right? The bad people. Yeah. The do-gooders, I'm a do-gooder. I believe I'm a do-gooder. What other people think of me, that's fine. But I believe I'm a do-gooder, and I want to do it a standardized way so I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. What I was going to say is I think you could go to a centralized thing like this and you still don't have to have every single verified race be to the same level of scrutiny.
Right. Yeah, right. Yeah.
This could be a thing where it's you go in and put in your information, and a promoter can come here and say, I'm only going to do weight and height verification. As long as you have these 2 check marks, we're good. I'm not going to do dual recording as long as you're on a auto-calibrated trainer that's one of these 5 or 6 models. I'm not going to require dual. Like, you can do different levels just to get rid of the garbage, right?
You could this eBioPassport or this sort of portal or this essentially rider profile, right? That just goes along with you. Like, if you have a kicker core Like Brian White bought a kicker V6 to do Sunday Race Club, but he had a kicker core. He's like, I don't want to buy a new trainer. He could get, my kicker core is verified, and here's my heart rate, here's my equipment, and I'm just going to do the casual races, and then people can go, hey, you're just, this is what you have, this is who you are. And if you're putting on because Training Peaks has the tier 2 races, be like, hey, they got a smart trainer and they got a heart rate monitor, you're good to go.
Like I could see an FRR. I could see an FRR coming to this for simple weight verification, trainer verification, model, that kind of stuff. Simple.
If you click on the verification, hit that plus button. This is for the visual audience here. I think it shows all of the people that have got into this, right? Yeah. The Virtual Slow, RGT, right, Cycling BC. So there's a lot of people that sort of used this already. Those are the ones that have access to it. So they can go in the back end and be like, hey, and if you're like, hey, I don't want to show myself, fine. Like, who is it? Matt Usborne, who's a Canadian, he's a Canadian national champion from 2022. He doesn't show his stuff publicly, but Echelon goes in the back end and has access to it, and they can verify him, and he's verified. I'm for this. I'm glad it still exists. I'm glad it's still online.
I'd like to see something like this brought forward to be shared. We need to quit. If the sport's really going to move forward, they got to quit doing platform focused stuff, or a single platform is going to win out on verification, right? I mean, one or the other is going to have to happen. But really, if you think about it, other than Elite, there's no verified racing on Zwift, right? There's no. Right.
But let's say you do this, okay, this is just a logistics thing. If you have this, if MyWhoosh comes here and grabs the data, their verification team can go through it, right? Zwift can come, Zwift doesn't really do elite racing, but they can do the FRR stuff. And if they had their verification team, if someone's like, hey, Zwift, this person, blah, 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 I'd be like, okay, well, we went and grabbed it from their B-Bio passport. They're good to go. You need to stop complaining to Zwift. Same with all the other platforms. They can come to this one portal and get the rider profile, right? Does that work or does that not work?
No, I think that works. And this could be a third party, like a subscription type of thing too, where you pay $5 or $10 to submit your annual testing, and you're good to submit stuff for the next year, and that supports the third party, right?
Yeah, it supports supports the hosting. Yeah,
to gather the information, and maybe a race that's going to use it or something pays a minor subscription fee. The platforms maybe pay a subscription fee to get the API calls out of it, right? I think this would be the utopian solution, right? The perfect solution.
Yeah, it's like it's a little similar to the athlete analytics sort of thing, like the Bjorn's verification stuff. So it's like I'm as a writer thinking this, not as a performance verification person. I'm like, I just want some simplicity. And that's where it's tougher to get all parties aligned, but I think the writers could own it themselves. Kind of what this is. I think the writers own this a lot more.
So I guess my plea would be to Echelon, to MyWhoosh Sunday Race Club, those that are branching out bigger with these verifications, is put together. We don't want to read through these 50-page documents and try to interpret what it means. Give us this nice little 5, 6, 7-minute YouTube video that explains how you create your video, what you do. Fast forward, like you were saying, I didn't understand how it was going to count down to the sprint or whatever. You fast forward, quickly through the rest periods and be like, okay, here we go, countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is what the test will do. You do this for 12 minutes. Like go through all of that and lay it all out where somebody can just sit down and watch for 7, 8 minutes and be like, okay, I understand what they're asking for now and why they're asking for it.
I spent more time studying and preparing for my Power Passport test than probably I should have. But I don't care about sharing my video. They say they want to share it, but to ease people's mind, to show, hey, this is what I did. So if anyone wants it, I'll send you my link, for that, because it is a little overwhelming.
Yeah, we're doing this for the community. That's why I stream Well, I was streaming
Yeah.
it to record it to submit it, but also like I read out. I know Lee hit me on the side. He's like, "Hey, I really enjoyed listening to you read the rules aloud, right?" And I'm just like, yeah, because I'm like, okay, cool. I'm jumping in. I'm gonna do the Power Passport. Okay, let's read this thing and do it. And all of a sudden, I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on? Like, this is really specific and really vague at the same time.
Well, at one point, I was like, dude, you've been reading the rules for 45 minutes. Would you just please do the damn
Do
test?
the test.
We're all
Because
here
I
to
was
see you
stalling.
suffer.
I didn't want to do the test.
I'm not
I don't want to do the
reading the
test.
rules.
I was
Just
stalling.
do it.
He was putting it off.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
because
and-
I did the race on Thursday. That was that increased my FTP. That's how I am. Like, I'm like a race person. Like, I like racing. I don't like testing. And then the test is what they go by. They don't go by the race. They go, oh, you did really well in this race, but the test shows this. It's like, well, did I do something wrong? They're like, well, you didn't test as much because I don't test well. That's the thing, is they're not taking into account the bad testers. At least in my opinion. Maybe they are.
Yeah, what it does, at least within the MyWhoosh PowerPort test, because it's the only verified racing I've done. I did mine in June when my fitness, like the CTL, was like 30. So like I was terrible. I think my 12-minute was 330 watts. You fast forward 6 weeks later, I did 360 for 10 minutes in a race. They emailed me, said, hey, redo the Power Passport test, not saying something's wrong, but we just want to check. And I just increased fitness.
Oh, that's right. You got annulled, right?
No, I got annulled because I didn't pair my power meter.
Yeah, okay, sorry.
This was just, hey, you got a big variance between your test and your race. Can you redo your test to make sure, your fitness matches?
Yeah.
Maybe sure wasn't an error within your equipment.
So they gave you an opportunity to retest. Otherwise, if you couldn't have matched it in a test, they would have come back with a effort could not be verified kind of annulment, right? I mean, that's what would have happened.
Yeah. So one of the other riders on my team had a, what was it? It was like, hey, your primary was significantly lower than your secondary. Would you mind doing a Power Passport test to see what the issue was? And he redid the Power Passport test and it came back fine. It was just his trainer, or power meter, whichever it was. I can't remember, a trainer or power meter, but it was vastly off. And he redid it and it lined up and he's all right. But
And the game power was the low one, which then it's not as big of a concern, right? They're like, if you're going to intentionally mess with something, you're going to be on the favorable equipment, not the unfavorable.
Okay, so
one.
are they checking? This is dumb in the sense, or ignorant. Are they testing because they think your fitness is not good or your equipment is wrong?
I get the impression from MyWhoosh that they're looking at two things. Number one, it's, are you able to do exactly what they say? And that the video proof, seeing your equipment, the dual recording does all of that. I think the second part for the MyWhoosh, which I commend them on, it is about accurate and competitive racing. You can't sandbag. If you give me a good Power Passport test and I seed you in a category based on your Power Passport test and you blow that way over,
Okay.
like if you go far enough over that they think you were one or two categories off, you're going to have to retest like Brian, and you could potentially get annulled if you're far enough out. I think where they're just like,
that's it.
You completely phoned it in on your Power Passport test. You don't get to win money. You do another test. We're moving you up 2 categories and off you go. So I think part of theirs is about accurate seeding, and they're going to hold you accountable for their accurate seeding that way. Yeah.
Well, it's a known value. You're setting a known value for them to compare you on, which is good.
Right. So I went down on my FTP on the MyWhoosh because I was a different power meter. So my Thursday race, which was like a 20, when did I break away?
24, 25 minute. It was
24, 25 minute effort.
Was that long. Yeah.
Yeah. The whole race was like 26 minutes or 28 minutes. And I broke away after like 4 minutes. And I was on my stages left side crank, and that's always higher. But I did my test on my dual was on kicker, wasn't kicker. Yeah. Kicker move. And my secondary was the power, my speed place. Now my increase, cause my Garmin, my Zwift doesn't go to intervals. My Garmin, which is recording my dual, of the stages, which reads higher, went to intervals, and that's where intervals gave me the new FTP. So did Zwift gave me the FTP because I did a really hard effort, right, for that long period of time. So I had an increase on my FTP. Then I did the My Whoosh, and then went down because I did a 12-minute effort after doing the other efforts. So I think it's an accurate test. I'm not knocking the test. I'm just saying that like my fear is, if I go in a race and I go hard, I'm not thinking about a test. I'm thinking about winning the race or doing really well in the race. That's where I'm fearful of like, oh, well, you sandbagged it. You didn't do well in your test because I don't test well. I race well, but I don't test well.
I think if you honestly test, I've seen them do just firsthand with what Brian said, right? If it's they
but I don't want to do a test if they ask me to do another test. Because I might fail that one. I'm in an infinite loop with the failure.
If you want verified racing, it's just part of what we gotta take on the chin. And I'm pretty good at FTP testing the traditional 20 minutes because that's like a time trial, and that's what was kind of my bread and butter when I did race. And I think you're going to find that on the Power Passport. You're going to get a lot of new people coming into Power Passports with Echelon Racing and Cat 6 and Cat 5 opening up. The first couple times you do the test, right, you're going to underperform just because you're not used to doing that kind of test. Because it's not like the other tests. Like Brian, if you do that test 3 or 4 times, you're going to get better at pacing. And because you've already said, like, I went too hard. I think it was Lee. Like, I went too hard on my short effort. I'm going to pace that differently next time, right? People are going to learn to test better, but this first time out, some of these noobs are going to struggle with it.
Yeah, I was done 30 seconds into the 3-minute effort. I was like, the problem, my situation is I'm actually really good at pacing, but the problem was I hadn't ridden for 6 weeks. So I had 6 weeks ago pacing in my brain.
That's me.
And my legs went, hell no,
that was me.
You're not doing that. Because I know all my records of like 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute, 5 minute. Like I know if I'm rested, my 5-minute effort should be here and I could probably get it within 5 to 10 watts. So going into a 3-minute effort, I was like, I should be at, 390. Because I'm like, and I was going, well, I haven't ridden in 6 weeks, so 390 should be comfortable. No, it was total. So actually, if I did a PPT tomorrow, I probably would get 15, 20 watts on all my numbers.
Yeah, you guys bring up good points. Because I went out, I was trying, at the 12 minutes, I was trying to hold like 380. And I was like, I could, because I'm used to doing like 20-minute efforts. Like when I did 4DP, I was like, 20 minutes, well, 12 minutes seems a lot. It's like 8 minutes less. So maybe I can do under what I think I could do, but that was higher than what I can do currently. So yes, Casey, you bring a good point of I would know now where I should have paced, because I look at my power and it's like, and then my heart rate's like totally going up because I'm like, I can't hold this pace. And I had to, so
12 minutes is a terrible time frame to pace too, because that's ugly hard.
It's for a time trialist where you're like, I'm cool with like pacing for 40 minutes. Right. When I did districts is like 40 minutes and 38 to 40 minutes depending on the fitness. And 12 minutes is just weird for me. Like a 20-minute is way better. Like I think I did better in the 4DP test, which is a 5-minute and a 20-minute. In an hour or an hour and 10 minutes, whatever it is. Then I'm like 12 minutes because I didn't do the Zada test. I think you can, when I did the RGT, when I did the National Championships verification for 2023, I did it on RGT, and I think I did my own. No, I did the Echelon Racing League recommended one. I didn't do the Zada one, which all the people that were on Zwift did the Zada one. Echelon had their own test, and so they're like, oh, you can do this and this and this. Well, and I just built a workout in RGT.
The year that the test was on RGT, you had to make your own test. So they didn't even have, like, at least My Whoosh, you can go in, turn on the PPT test and do the test. The year that it was on RGT, they said, oh, we want a video. It needs to be an hour long, and we want you to do a 15-second, a 1 minute, a 5 minute, and like a 20-minute effort.
Yeah. It was
in a
something like
video.
that. Yeah,
And you're like, okay. And I actually went into like the Zwift workout planner, and there was
yeah. I did
made
the
a
same
workout.
thing. Yeah. And then did it
And
on
actually
RGT. You didn't need to do it on RGT. You could actually do the verification.
My
in
video
Zwift.
was in Zwift.
Yeah.
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 RGT Nationals.
So, because a lot of nationals and a lot of elites that raced the Echelon Racing League that were on RGT were Zada verified
Well, and
riders.
I think
they
that
would
happens
they would
now,
just
like-
use that test.
People go and race SRC, and then they go ride in Zwift. With my whoosh being free, there isn't this like fine line of like, I race in my whoosh and only go in my whoosh. Well, no, like my whoosh is free. You pay for Zwift. You go back and forth. You can do both. Like, I think we need to get away from this whole like, oh, you're a Zwifter. Ooh, you my whoosh. Like,
Yeah.
no, like we're all in for all esports, no matter what the platform. And
Not all of us.
Preach it.
Not all of us, Lee.
I don't know.
I got two things
Well,
I want to
not
say.
All of us
Which-
in this.
which one
All
of
of us
what?
in this panel. All of us in this
Who?
panel. I'm saying in the community. There's people
in
that
the
are
community, yes.
the,
No.
the Zwift apologists
I
out there.
couldn't. I have friends that Zwift, and even when we were doing like RGT Magic Roads, they're like, "I'll just Zwift and talk to you guys on Discord," and we're like, "It's free though. It's Magic Roads. I made a Magic Roads. Come ride with us."
They want
No,
chin
it's run.
straps. They want chin straps. Chin straps and XP. Go,
I
Brian.
feel my whoosh is almost like that as well. Like there's just
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's two things I want to bring up. The verification aspect, you're saying if you got to test again, Kellison. The pacing, I knew in a race I did the 360 for 12 or 10.
Mhm.
So when I did that again, I knew my target. Like it wasn't like an unknown. So I knew my target and I was able to achieve it. The other thing is the reason
I'm only laughing is because I don't think I've ever done a 12-minute effort. You don't saw my breakaway. I've
You know
been like
what?
a 20
No.
plus guy. I'm
Well,
a 20 plus
so-
effort guy. Yeah.
12-minute, 10-minute effort is actually decent
Yeah.
because
yeah.
Sorry, Brian.
so
No, you're good.
excerpt. Yeah, sir. When you ride an excerpt gives you a focus of what that particular ride was like on your power curve, and it's shocking how many races I've done that are between an 8-minute and 12-minute
Mm.
focus power curve. So 12 minutes is totally a
That's
legit.
cool data
time
that you
to-
got from Zert. That's pretty cool.
It's very
Yeah.
cool data.
All right, Brian, go finish. I cut you off right before
Oh,
your
you're
second
good.
point.
Cut you
Go.
off.
The other reason people leave my whoosh almost immediately is the speed. Because I double dip, of course. So I was finishing out the baseline things. I had my
Dude,
guy
you
on
double
10.
dip?
You didn't do that New Year's resolution of only single dipping? You're double
Dude, I
dipping
only,
some?
in the 500 kilometer thing, I only did 160, so there was no point even double dipping.
All right.
I actually only rode my whoosh a few of the days, but the reason people don't ride my whoosh, I think this is a big thing, is because it's slow. On Tempest Fugit, I did 78 kilometers or something the other day, and on my whoosh, I
What do
did
you mean
like
slow? Like visually or distance speed slow?
right the speed, because
Padding those
I-
Strava stats.
yeah, I
Oh,
did.
Okay, yeah.
It was 7 or 8 miles, which is whatever in kilometers, I forget.
Oh,
But it
is
was
that why
7 or
my-
8 miles on Strava difference. And I was on Tempest Fugit. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Seven
wow.
7 or 8 miles. And I was riding with the 4.4 watt per kilogram bot, running at 43 miles per hour or kilometers
On
per
Zwift.
hour on my whoosh. And I was running at 48 with constant on Zwift.
That sounds about right. That's
Yeah.
why like the My Whoosh 300, which I completed.
I did not.
No, I did that. It took 7 days. And I was doing like
Yeah.
30 kilometers at least a day at minimum. And some days I did 2.5 hours. I did like 80 or like 60 kilometers. It's
I
just
did
much-
one of
and by
those.
myself. That was a lot of by myself on my whoosh.
I didn't finish that because I got sick, but I did like 4 or 5 days of the MyWhoosh 300, and I got up to like 200 kilometers. But one of those days, I raced on Zwift and just ran MyWhoosh in the background. And on that day, I actually said, I think you can do the festive 500 on Zwift and the MyWhoosh 300 double dipping, and you will get 500 kilometers on Zwift and 300
Yeah.
on MyWhoosh. Like, I honestly think if you double dipped for the 300 on like Tempest Fugit and had like the constant train cars of draft through there, I do actually think like you're getting 20% more distance out of Zwift.
It was a challenge. The My Whoosh, like I
Yeah.
was like, wow, if I miss a day, Like there was 2 days I had to do 2.5 hours on my whoosh just to get enough in. Now, I didn't do the flat routes. I was doing routes to just get the route badge. So I did a lot of climbing ones. I don't know if anyone watched it, but I was doing climbing. I started, the first day was a 27-minute climb, which is not helping your distance if you're trying to get distance. It's great for training, but it went slow.
So I watched a bunch of streams of the Rafa 500, or the Festive 500, I should say. Yeah, and there were some pace partners that were like, the D pace partner was still pushing close to 40 k an hour with going over some hills, and I'm thinking, I've been caught in that too, where I've tried to pad the Strava stats by riding flat routes only because it's hilly where I live. If I go for a bike ride outside, if I hit 23 k an hour average, that's fast for like my riding around here. But in Zwift, it's like I can do 37 no problem the whole ride for hours and hours.
I used to have people get so angry at me 7-8 years ago, before Zwift and all that kind of blew up, to all the cyclists. Our local tri club did a thing in the winter where every week they had a distance challenge for running and riding, and I'd be riding a Zwift race and then I'd jump on a pace partner and ride for an hour, because that's when I was super fit. And these guys were mad. Like, it is not fair that you're riding on Zwift and you're getting 25 miles an hour on Zwift with a pace partner, and we're going outside, putting on our stocking hats and our gloves and all that, and we're riding, 15 miles an hour because we're, the Marshmallow Man in all of our outfits. So they were legit angry. Like, they were trying to say that indoor miles weren't going to count for that. And I'm like, guys, this is all for fun, right? This is just motivation.
Yeah. And for the longest time, you couldn't complete the Rafa 500 indoor. That was only like a COVID thing where they were like, okay, it's COVID, you can do it. But
I think 2020 was the first year where they're like,
had to do it outside. They would flag your indoor rides in Strava where they were pulling the data from.
Yeah, complete side note to 2020, there's this Tour de Tucson, massive ride in Arizona. They did an indoor ride with the jersey unlock, and it might be the best jersey in the game, but it was only one event. I've even emailed, every year I email the organizer asking if we could do it online, and I'll pay a $25 fee, and I get no response.
You need to up the fee, $25. Come on.
Yeah.
How much will Brian pay for this jersey?
Yeah,
so back to the verification stuff. I had two things that I was really confused about when I started watching some of the Echelon stuff yesterday, that I guess it just caught me off guard. One of them is the difference in the weight requirements between Sunday Race League and Echelon was everyone had to weigh in prior to the race for Echelon, where Sunday Race Club, like your Power Passport weight is good for the month, unless you're elite. The second one, and this was the one that really baffled me. I'm okay with the weight being different. I'm not sure why they decided to go different on those two. But on the other one that just baffled me is, if you're required to do a Power Passport test, that means you have to have a secondary power meter. But if you weren't in the top class in Echelon, you didn't have to dual record in the race. But I'm like, you had to do a Power Passport test to get into the race. Why not just make them? Because that's just, to me, that's just opening the door for bad actors, right? Like,
wait, you have to dual record to do a Power Passport test?
I assume you do, right?
No, I don't think you do for Echelon. So you could do the power. This is the thing, is you could do the Power Passport test with a single recording for Echelon. You cannot race SRC.
Okay.
That's why I wanted to do it for SRC, and hopefully it covers Echelon Racing League, so I only have to do it once.
Okay, and Bucky's just said no secondary power meter here, so Buck doesn't have one, and he's doing Echelon and doing great. Shout out!
But if he wants to show, that's the thing, is that's where it's like, if my whoosh wanted to have more performance verified racing. That's the balance, is like, how many hurdles do we want to jump through, or how many hoops do we want to jump through?
That makes more sense. That's a good explanation. That makes more sense. I thought the Power Passport test required duels no matter what. The fact that they're not, then that makes a little more sense.
No, I don't. No, it only. Correct me if I'm wrong. You can do the Power Passport test anytime you want. But to get verified for Sunday Race Club, you need to do it the way they want you to do it. It's free to do anytime you want. You can do it with you can do it with rollers and a speed sensor and whatever you want, but it doesn't verify you for anything. I know I'm getting into the weeds here.
Because it actually asks you in the form whether you're doing SRC or you're doing the Power Passport.
There's two selections. See that?
So that was my confusion.
Do that drop down.
Yeah.
For the visual only audience, there's two drop downs on the race selection. So it's name, email, then hit the little drop down. There, Power Passport test. So you can just do a regular Power Passport test, I guess.
Well, the problem is though,
that needs to be another vague thing. It should be like Echelon
Racing. Secondary
League.
power source, and it gives you the little you must fill this out.
But then go back to the Echelon paperwork, and it probably says for elites you need dual recording. For everybody else, you only need single recording.
Yeah, it says it somewhere.
Yeah, if I'm doing a performance verification, I'm going to do it for Sunday Race Club. Whether I wake up at 2 a.m. to do a race, that's my decision. But I only want to do one test. I don't want to then redecide. Oh, I have to do another dual recording. It's like, no, I want to do one test. That's why I go back to the thing we talked about at the beginning of the show, and we have 5 minutes to try to hit an hour. One verification test every quarter. Unless they contact you after this, whoever contacts you and says we need an outside thing. You need to go find a bike with an outside thing to verify who you are, and then you need to do it again to verify your equipment. Once a quarter, I could get on board with that.
I think you should almost be doing this test once a quarter anyways to see your progress.
It's a good fitness test.
Yeah, but I don't want to take a test every quarter. I don't want to take.
I never test either.
I don't want to take a test.
I don't test though.
Let's see.
You like tests. There's people that are like, oh, I did my weekly ramp test. It's like, what? Just do a race.
I'll pull up one of those, 8-week workout plans, and like the first thing's an FTP test and the last thing's an FTP test. And I'm like, yeah, nope, I know what my FTP is. Close enough. Yeah. Let's go. So right. Let's look at where racing was, right? 2 or 3 years ago, Lee, you were joining national level events with we'll verify the winner after, right? Like there was no barrier of entry. So we're sitting here and we're kind of critical of where we're at as far as inconsistency and some confusion and things like that. But I think we all believe in what they're having us do is good, but the clarity around it and some of that stuff, like how it's done, needs to be improved. But from what it was, we have way less risk of that complete garbage rider impacting the entire race now, because you have to pass the check to join, not to win, right?
Yeah.
It used to be.
Yes, that's a good point. I think to sum it up is there are more do-gooders than bad-gooders, right? Or do-badders, for lack of a better term. And we're doing it. We just want it to be a more seamless do-gooder test, right?
I think the confusion around the test is keeping some good racers who would really enjoy it out of it, just because they look at it all and they're just like their head explodes and there's
the freedom to join. If you're verified for your quarter, you can join any race you want and not have to worry about like I just have to do a weigh-in. Okay, great. I can wake up and do a weigh-in, and I can worry about my food or whatever. That's another full show to a certain extent. But I want to be like, can I jump in this race? It's like this casual racing should be, if I'm verified, I should be able to choose whatever race I want. Like a World Tour Pro comes home. I remember this old story. I don't know if anyone knows this. Like the U.S. Postal Service had a guy named Antonio Cruz on the team, and he's from L.A. He would just show up to like L.A. races in the off season or like in the tail end of the season after he's been a domestique and come and do crits. He's not having to jump through a ton of hoops. He's like, I just want to show up in a race, pin a number on. That's what we want. We want to be like, can we just pin a number on and do a race? If that's a FRR race or if that's a echelon race, let's get into that. That's what the sport needs.
Yeah.
That's good. Hey, way to sum it up right there. All right, Brian White, you got anything, or you just? No, that's good. You're good. Steelers lost. We're good.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the Sunday Race Club, the new stuff is phenomenal. It really changed up the dynamics.
Oh, yeah.
It was so I was toward the top end of Cat 4. My fitness is down a little bit. I did win 2 weeks ago, but today it didn't even stand a chance because of the rolling course and the VO2 punches. And then there was 18 guys come down from Cat 3. The good thing is, and this is the best part about it, 18 people come down from Cat 3. So your thought process would be, well, those top 18 are going to be in the top 10, right? No, there was only 2 guys from Cat 3. If I look at it correctly, 2 guys from Cat 3 were in the top 10. So even though they expanded the categories, it didn't ruin the racing. Now it was a hell of a lot harder, I'll tell you that. But my fitness is down a little bit, and they hit every single bump at 6 watts per kilogram. So it was a lot more challenging. It's going to make
So it's a good improvement for
Yeah.
the first time doing it. It's a good improvement.
Yeah.
And I went and looked through results just to kind of see how those categories worked out, Brian. And I agree. I didn't watch any of the men's racing, but I looked at the results, and kudos to my Whoosh just right out of the gate. Cat 6 winner was right. That whole Cat 6 top 10 was right around 3 watts per kilo, 3.1, 3.2. You're talking about good old school Zwift C-level racers, right? Winning Cat 6, getting money. And Cat 5 was, I'm not sure I would be in Cat 5. I might still be Cat 4. Like, I looked at Cat 5 numbers, and the way I like to wheel suck and the way I like to be 2 or 3 tenths less than everybody else, I think I could have destroyed Cat 5, because the winners in Cat 5 were 3.4, 3.5, 3.6 average. And in Zwift right now, I'm on the podium with 4s and 4.2s.
Yeah.
Now, the course may make a difference. My Whoosh has got a little tougher draft. It you can't gain as much, but still, like, I was encouraged by the numbers I saw in the lower categories that this is no longer the elite level, even what would you say casual racer level stuff anymore, right? You're getting down into just average Joe getting in there and racing. The ladies was the same way. 5 and 6 of the ladies was down in the 2s for the winners.
Yeah, it was a good mix up. It's a great addition because opening up the top 10 for pay it gives people something to go to, and people were going for those sprints. I'll tell you that.
Okay, the preems in the middle of the race. Like, people would sacrifice a win possibly to get a sprint early on.
Yeah, I went for sprint.
Good.
I was expecting a breakaway off that first sprint because it was 22 kilometers of the climb. So I was expecting, I didn't even know what I got in it, but I went about as hard as I could, feel I could repeat, and I got swamped. Like, it wasn't even close. So, these boys were moving on these sprints. They were serious about it.
That's good. It makes dynamic racing.
Yeah.
It makes dynamic racing.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun going forward.
With in-race incentives, right? Which is usually what happens in real-life crit racing, where it's like, hey, there's a preem lap or the hot lap. Have you ever done a race? We're going to get out of here. Hot lap is first, when you blow the whistle, it's you win a bottle of wine. And it was like, boom. Everyone was going at not everyone, but the people that were like, hey, I'm going to try to win a bottle of wine because I'm going to get dropped on, the 15th lap. That's fun.
From a testing perspective, do those preems and those KOMs, is that going to flush out some people that are sandbagging their Power Passport tests too? If they start getting some 4 or 5 minute climbs in there, people are going to go for the preems and blow their numbers. I think it's good. I think my Whoosh is doing great things as far as, they said it to Brian White before, right? It's just go race hard, right? Like, it'll all work out if everybody's just going and racing hard. Yeah.
I don't want to test hard. I want to race hard.
Listen, you just need to test every week. You need to test until it's just you can test in yourself.
Oh, yeah. So when I started doing we got to get out of here. When I started doing workouts, that's when I started getting the mentality of, like, I'm learning more about myself. So it's like when I did the race on Thursday, and you were very helpful.
That was amazing. That was
fun.
amazing.
It was fun. But I was just like, I'm just going to go because I want to mix it up. And I was counterattacking. I was using more race tactic stuff, which we should do more of that, and race breakdowns of, like, you just went off. Yeah, I went off because people were yo-yoing off the back, and, like, then there was no coming together. It was a small race. It was like 6 people or whatever it was. But yes, when you do more structured stuff, you get better at it. Like, hey, I know how I can do this, and I know what I can do for 5 minutes. I know that now after I test. Oh, I know what I can do for 3 minutes for sure. I didn't like doing it because I'm worried about failing the test. Don't test well. On that note,
You'll be fine. Everybody just keep racing hard. It was a good
Yeah,
week of racing.
okay.
Lot of good community races out there.
2025 for everyone that does race casually or competitively, online, inline, whatever. Try to, if you don't record it, try to just make notes and make your own race breakdowns. Do your own race debrief. Okay. That'll help improve you in the racing sort of tactics and reading the race, is doing your own self-evaluation. A lot of people just go out and then they look at the numbers. I know we were doing that before. Everyone looks at the wattage column. You were breaking it down right before. This is the last point. We got to get out of here. When you're looking at Randy's race in the women's, she had like very low watts per kilo for 4th place or whatever it was. And it's like, don't look at the watts per kilo. That's one indicator to go, hey, she was really efficient in her racing.
Yeah.
Right? That's what I always looked at, is I went that hard effort and I was like 3.7. I wasn't like I was blowing them away.
No,
I was just doing what I was doing.
You were about the same watt per kilo as the guys you finished 10 seconds ahead of. And it's all about learning how to race and people just getting good at racing. And there was a lot of great racing in the community. Randy, Scott, Bucky's are in chat, like their races yesterday in verified racing, right? Those were all verified races yesterday. We watched for those guys. They all did phenomenal. And it's awesome to see everybody getting into that stuff.
Yep. Don't worry about the numbers. Just read the race.
Race hard.
Look at the numbers after and use that to correlate it to what you did in the race. And on that note, we're going to say goodbye.
See you guys.
That means goodbye. Play the music. Bye, everybody.